Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today, I have back with me an exceptional guest, and I know those of you that are watching this on video are like, we can see her, Tracey. Who is she? But you're going to have to wait for that because I have to do some shameless self-promotion first. So I just wanted to let you know that I teach via Zoom, which is like this. In fact, we're recording via Zoom. It's a video format. It's sort of like Skype, but more stable as a platform. And I teach private mediumship courses. I'm actually developed a 3-tiered private mediumship course, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and 6 weeks. Beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And I'm offering that privately to you. In the first session, you'll be learning a great deal academically as well as practicing exercises in your classes. In the second level, you'll be doing a lot of reading of me. You will know me way too well by the time you finish that. And in the third segment, the advanced segment, I'll be bringing a guinea pig for you to class, and you'll be able to practice with me present to help you through those details of a reading so that by the time you graduate, perhaps you'll feel that you actually do know how to do a perfect reading or at least have been launched a little further in your along your path there. So right now I'm not offering a certification with that, but it is quite possible that I will in the future, at least a certificate of achievement. So anyway, I also teach a 12-week professional level psychic mediumship certification program, and I have 3 levels of certification that you earn that are certifications through the Universal Mind, which is a 501c3, and they're awarded according to your performance in the course. I also teach channeling a couple of times a year, just finished a course recently, 4-week channeling series. So if you're interested in that, you can check out more on my website at mediumtraceylockwood.com. So I know you're so curious. Who is this person with me? Again, she's been on the show once before. She is a highly qualified teacher of higher awareness, and she is a master teacher in Perceptive Awareness training. You might have heard of P.A.T, P.A.T, Inc. And she's a Soma Pi healing instructor, and she integrated awareness graduate, and she's a certified healing hypnosis practitioner, and she teaches Soma Pi workshops and is just an absolutely brilliant aware soul. And so I'd like to bring her to the fore here and introduce Suzie Suzie Zummo. Welcome, Suzie. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. And I know a lot of you get curious and you're like, well, I want to check her out while she's talking. So if you do, you can find her on her website, SuzizeZummo.com, and Zummo has 2 M's in it, in case you wondered. So SuzizeZummo.com. Well, Susan, thank you. Last time you came here, what was it we talked about? I'm spazzed on that.
I think we talked about everything.
Yes, we did. I think pretty much lots of aspects of awareness and connecting and consciousness. And so you guys should check that out on my YouTube, on the YouTube channel. But anyway, So today, Susan is bringing a really interesting thing to us, and she's going to talk to us about the energies that are lying ahead, and she's going to speak to us intuitively about 2018, like what's going on. And I know, Susan, for a lot of people, 2017 was a really rough year for some, or a really intense year for other people. I know for me, I started a huge process of like eliminating things. I eliminated people out of my life that were draining my energy and my time. I eliminated, not like I chopped them off
Right.
with a hatchet or anything. I just sort of removed my contact gently from that. I got rid of things in my household that I just felt like I needed to go through every single, I think really by now I've touched almost every item in my household. And I mean literally like every book, every piece of jewelry, every item of clothing, every piece of furniture, everything, and made a decision about whether I wanted to keep it or not. And I had this feeling that I need to be light and ready to roll kind of thing. And I spoke with Minister Val Williams, who's at Arthur Findlay College and has been on the show before. We spoke just a few weeks ago, and she said she's done the same thing. She's been going through, and she's expecting some massive changes. So I'm curious what you feel for us. There's a lot of turmoil among people about, and there's so many dark prophecies on the
Yes.
media too. So as an exceptional intuitive, what would you tell us? I'm just going to step back and let you roll for a while.
Well, I would say all of those are true. We are in a time of upheaval that started last year, certainly in full force. It is going to roll forward for another couple years. So normally numerology says that cycles last a year, but we're in a longer cycle right now. We're in an upheaval cycle, and we're also in a cycle of new beginnings. So if you did the cleaning out, and the cleaning out, what I'm talking about is physical, mental, emotional, all of those things, even spiritual. If you've done your cleaning, if you've done your prep work in 2017, 2018 is going to be a year of new beginnings for you, even in the midst of upheaval. And so what I see intuitively is 2017 as kind of a closing out period, or what numerologists would normally call a 9-year, or closing a cycle. But it was time for us to really work on self, especially emotionally, especially in the belief systems. What do we believe? What do we truly hold as values? I think we've seen that in the larger degree in the country in terms of people positioning themselves with other groups of people who hold the same values. And so it became very obvious who I resonate with, or what my beliefs are, or where I put myself. And that's good, because if you're in the wrong group, everyone's going to be uncomfortable. If you're in the group that you resonate with, then you have the option of truly seeing your beliefs out in front of you, and you have the option to change them or to dive right in. So we see people sort of moving into what we call their soul groups and gravitating towards those places where you've heard a lot of, well, this is my tribe, I found my village, those kinds of things. Now, if you're a negative person, if you're a person who has a lot of fear, you're going to be drawn to those groups and beliefs and vibrate in that way. So for those of us who did that looking within, that work on self, that cleaning out of the home, of the closets, literally and figuratively, now we're looking around going, okay, what's next? What's new? And 2018 is what's new. So we know that new opportunities can't come in unless you make room for them. And that's what 2017 is about. So while we see upheaval still occurring in the world around us, we are challenged to continue to build. and we're challenged to continue to move in new directions. And so I always say, what is your belief? What is your focus? What is your intent? What is your motive? What is it that you really want? Because those things are going to inform the direction that you go. For many years, we have been saying in one way or another, your thoughts create your reality. Thoughts are things, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, when we first started talking about it, it took a long time for those thoughts to make reality happen. You had to pump into a lot of energy. You had to do affirmations for months on end. We're in energies now where two things are happening. There are balancings taking place, because this year is also a 2-year as well as an 11-year. So 2 is a number for balance. It's balancing the masculine and the feminine. It's balancing the inner and the outer. And then the 11 is the new beginnings, reaching out to the community. So while all these things are going on, they're all happening simultaneously. So what we want to do is we want to get on a positive path or a positive timeline that moves forward in 2018, rather than being bogged down in a negative path or a negative timeline. So even though we're talking about going out into the community, we're talking about balancing energies in the masculine and feminine, we're talking about balancing the inner and the outer, what I'm really going to stress is going in and getting inside of self instead of looking outside of self. So the formula kind of is, I look within myself, I connect with my spirit or my soul, and then I act in the outer world. Instead of, I go to the outer world, it tells me what to do, it tells me who I am and what to think and what to believe.
And then feel, yeah.
And then I take it in and do something with myself about it. So that's starting to change. I've listened to a number of intuitives, people in the know, teachers, who are all saying that we have to stop running around trying to care for everybody else to the exclusion of self. That time is over.
So easy for empathic people to do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's our culture too.
It sort of gives us a role and a place in people's lives, but if you don't have it, you really don't have it to give.
You don't, and you don't get it by default. So we've labored on if I do something kind to you, you will be kind to me, and that's how I'll get kindness in my life.
A happy exchange rate.
Right. And yes, that's absolutely true, but it has to grow from within self first. So I'm a kind person and I extend kindness to the world, and the world extends kindness to me. So it's a shift, especially for people who are in service and for people who are in a service industry or in service to others in their belief system. So how do we do that? The way that we do that is 2 ways. We focus on compassion, understanding, right? Kindness,
yes,
and love. Because the things that are going on in the world that we are unhappy with are being created and perpetrated by people who are devoid of love, compassion, right?
Yeah.
Understanding. And so they don't understand it.
They're not aware.
They're not aware. They're functioning from their belief system. And so you can't get into their belief system. You have to hold yours.
Yeah, energy follows focus, and we are energy. So where our focus goes, our energy goes, and
that's it.
Down the rabbit hole or up in the upward spiral. Yeah.
Got it. You've got it. So the way that I look at this for 2018 is And I know you and I both do this. We both have clients, and I love my clients because as a reader and a client, or an intuitive counselor and a client,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you need to get a different perspective. You need,
Absolutely.
your eyes.
Yeah.
But
I was mentioning before the show how helpful your gracious gift of a reading to me was. Those of us that are in the field, it doesn't mean that we don't need the assistance of our brothers and sisters in energy, and that clarity is very helpful.
that's right. And the truth of that is that I didn't tell you anything you didn't already know. And I reminded you or looked at your picture, the picture of your life from a different perspective, and gave you my perspective. And I think that's great.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. What concerns me is when someone is coming to me to tell them who they are,
Mm-hmm.
tell them what to do, or to make a decision for them. And I think for too long, we human beings have been way too willing to go to someone else for that.
Yes, or to just allow people to do that without really taking charge of our choices. Yeah.
Yes. So I like, one of the things I love about you is that you're a teacher, because teachers empower people. Teachers, you're not a guru. You don't have a little entourage.
Oh, please, no. I couldn't take it seriously.
And what we do is we say, yeah, I'll tell you what my perspective is, but let me show you how to get your own.
Yes.
You had to do this for yourself. And so I'm talking about it because in 2018, there's going to be more of a focus on learning how to do it for myself than asking someone else to do it for me.
Yes.
I see a lot of readers, a lot of teachers pushing back on this, because we have great changes coming. There's a phenomenally awesome shift coming. We're moving through a paradigm shift. That's what all this upheaval is about. And in this time period, you have to turn within to get your answers, because Tracey might not be available by phone. You might not be able to get Susan on text. It might not happen. And so what are you going to do? You're going to sit in a corner and cry until someone walks over and goes, come on, I'll show you what to do. I'll show you where to go. I'll show you, that can't happen, because Tracey and Susan are going to be turning within, going, where do I lead the group that I have in front of me? How do I serve best in this situation? How can I
take care of me too? Yes.
Do I stay in my house? Do I leave? Am I going to get flooded? Am I, I'm going to get hit by the fire? Am I going to get buried under snow? I mean, there are all kind of, when I say upheaval, I'm not just talking about politics and economy. We're talking about the world. So, when I hear weather coming, and I've been blessed in New Mexico, we haven't had that much of it. But when I lived on the East Coast, and we were getting the winter storm warnings and the hurricane warnings and the blizzard warnings, I didn't call my friends up and say, do you think I should stay? Do you think I should get in the car? Do you think I should pack the cats? What do you think I should do? I had to go inside and say, do I stay or do I go? Where's the best place for me, and where can I be of the best benefit? And that's what you're going to see a lot of coming up in this year. I'm going to make a prediction that your classes are going to bloom. I know that mine are, because people need what we have. People need to learn what we have.
Take it from where they are so that they can do it. Yep.
Absolutely. So I know when you and I talked before, and I want to share with your listeners some things that they can do.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely do that. I already pulled them out. Sorry for being twitchy. It's hard for me to sit still.
Well, you have to be any different than you are. I don't sit in a frozen state either because I am not a talking head.
Walk around or do a lot with the hands. So I pulled some things aside that intuitively I thought would be important to share with your listeners.
Thank you so much.
And I also want to preface that by saying, which I've said before, and you know I have, I don't really care what healing modality you have as long as it's effective, but you should have one. I don't really care how you get to your intuition. You should get there. Now, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you that perceptive awareness and Soma Pi are, in my opinion, the best ways to get there, because not only do I teach them, but I've been a student of them for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my belief.
And for me, I teach it a different way, but I'm very curious about your methodology as well. Yes.
So I do want to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important for people to find something that has what I call juice. You know, it's not an empty structure. It has power. It has energy in it. As an old Reiki master, I love Madame Takata's saying. She said that you know, any system will work if you work it, but some systems are better than others.
Yes.
And so you want a good system. I like my system because if you do it with me in person, it's 3 days. You never do it again. If we do it online, we do it in 4 segments and you never have to leave your house.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about it is that it's not just an educational process. There are energy attunements that energetically connect you to your soul for the intuition to activate. Then we practice, which I know you do in your classes. And that gives you confidence.
Very practical. And otherwise too, yeah.
Because how many classes have you ever taken where, you know, you get in there on the weekend, everything's going great, you get home, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So they have
or you get out of the class and you don't know how to do what you did. I graduated from a real estate program, didn't know how to write a contract because they don't teach you that. They teach you terminology and law. And I graduated, I got ordained and had been, for years working on it, and got out of there. And a week after, a friend of mine called and said, can you do my sister's funeral? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've never done a funeral or a wedding, you know, and I didn't want to do it out of the book. So I had to create my own, but it's very important to learn in situ. Absolutely. I'm so happy that you teach that way.
You have to. I feel that you have to, because
yeah.
I don't
Me
want
too.
little ducklings follow behind us. We want to support our students, and we want to help them be successful.
Absolutely. And not to have to wonder when you get out of a class, well, I've never done a reading, or I've never had an opportunity, or I don't know if I'm good enough to do that, or, you know, yes.
Important. And I say this because before I became a teacher, I was an accomplished student. I took many classes, many seminars, and one of the things that I heard as a student and a teacher for years was, well, I could do it for everyone else, but I can't do it for myself. So
lies.
How do you overcome that? Well, in class, you do it for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in class, we do readings on self. In class,
oh, that's beautiful. Yes, very good.
When we teach the healing, we do healing on self. So it works so well in this time period, and it works for people now because of the electrical disruptions. I'm so grateful that I don't have to get on a plane and go, you know, if I were going to teach class back in Virginia Beach where I lived, I would have to get on a plane, go to Virginia Beach. I might be stranded there for 5 days.
Yeah, New Mexico to Virginia, a little bit of a haul.
You know, even going to California or to Colorado.
Absolutely.
You know, who wants to sit in an airport overnight, or, you know, that kind of thing. So
I love to see the scenery too. So
I used to love to travel, and there are parts of me that still love that very much. But when you're going to travel, you need to use the intuition. You've got to use your intuition to book those flights.
Yes.
Which do I go through? Where do I lay over? I can tell you personally, every time I ever had to travel, I would get back, and my cousin, who I talk to regularly, would say to me, "Oh my gosh, cuz I hope you weren't in the airport in Chicago when they had to evacuate, because I know you were traveling this weekend." And I would say, "Oh no, I didn't go through Chicago this time. This time I went through Atlanta."
I was just talking with my friend Anne Marie, and she was talking about how on the highway, people need to use their intuition. And I usually drive wherever I go. I have flown, I've flown internationally or whatever, but I prefer driving. But even then, you do have to use your intuition to get, and I don't know, probably the listeners have maybe had this experience of like, you're going down the road and it's like, slow down. And then if you obey it or don't, you find out that there's radar, down there. And, that intuitive sense, like, is it safe to go into this rest stop or not? Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It just ran through my mind. Yeah.
It's important too, because even now we're being bombarded by so many energies, and people are unfocused when they're driving. They're thinking about, that doctor bill, they're thinking about health, they're thinking about,
And hopefully not doing this.
there's so many distractions, and I live in a place where we hardly ever use a turn signal.
Yes.
So if you're not using your intuition, then you're setting yourself up for difficulty.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You just don't know. I always say that we can tell when the energy is picked up because everyone's having accidents. You'll hear a lot of accidents reported on the radio. People are distracted. Now, I know that people are, and it's natural for us to be afraid of change, even wonderful change, because it's something that we don't know.
Yes.
We talk about economies changing. We talk about weather changes. We talk about relationship changes. There's always a lot of fear in that. There's also grief. I know we've talked about grieving as well. And in order for us to get where we need to get to, we need tools. So I brought a couple tools with us. And I want to say that these come from, and I'm sharing these from my teacher, Connie Newton. She's the founder of P.A.T. And she's given us these things to share with others. And then I'll talk about my own and what that really means in a way that we can apply it. But I think the first thing that we really need to do is look at forgiveness. And forgiveness of self. So difficult for us. We're so self-critical. We're so harsh with self. Long after we've forgiven others, we're still on self, right?
Yeah.
So, she gave us these 5 questions, and I want to say that I did these 5 questions every day for a month. And the change was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal in ways that I didn't expect. So the first question is, and what you want to do is not want to answer from what I think, I know, but let the intuition talk. So you want to sit quietly and take 3 deep breaths. Ask the questions, and I always had them written out on a piece of paper. And then I would take a deep breath and then just jot down the first thing that comes. So there's no thinking involved. And so you center yourself, we take 3 deep breaths, and we ask, what do I truly think about myself? And jot down the first thing. What repetitive thoughts do I have about anyone or myself? You just take a deep breath, jot it down, don't think about it. Why do I have these thoughts? How can I change these thoughts? And then, what will happen when these thoughts are changed? What will happen in my life when I change these thoughts?
Wow.
And I know you're going through them while I'm asking, right?
No, I was just reflecting on that, and I was getting an image of someone in a dark cave. You know how the walls kind of sweat because it's underground and it's like all dark, and that these questions are like a lantern that will lead you through the correct path to get out of that cave. That is just a wonderful sequence.
They're phenomenal. And I have to tell you, every time I did them for the 30 days, I got different answers. And I would sit down and I would say, there can't be anything else. There can't be anything else that, you know, what else could I truly think about myself? And every time there was something different. Every time something different came. So, for example, one of the things that I thought about myself was that I'm very judgmental of others and self.
Which is so surprising. Isn't it surprising when we pick up some aspect of ourself that we don't really identify with?
Yeah.
You know, like I noticed on Facebook that, you know, people were trying to describe themselves. Almost everybody said kind, loving, and compassionate. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing statistic given my personal history, you know. And it was interesting how people do see themselves, and that really creates an in-depth look. I just don't associate judgmental with you. I'm not saying erase it like it's not important, but I'm saying, wow, like that's really digging deep.
Well, it was, and it was a surprise for me because what I came up with was I judge other people to be smarter, brighter, healthier, better, and I judge myself to need to do more. So I need to do more. I need to be smarter, healthier, you know, stronger. That self-criticizer that I have learned to love, right? So now, you know, I'm just giving you an example from when I did it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing.
So
Yeah.
my repetitive thought was, oh, that they're wonderful. They're blessed. They're strong. You know, I need to do more. I'm not strong enough. I need to work harder. So why do I have these thoughts? Well, the answer was because of childhood programming. You know, you need to do better in school. You need to do better you need to do better. And so without a good or bad attached to it, how can I change these thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the answer was self-acceptance, right? It was accept self, accept others. Just love who you are. And then what will change? What will happen when I change those thoughts? And interestingly enough, the answer was you and everyone else will feel more relaxed in your presence because nobody has to live up to anything.
Yeah, you're not competing.
There's no competition. There's no
or
judgment.
feeling that, yes.
Or self-criticism. So even if you're criticizing yourself, others feel criticism in your auric field. And so I thought that was very, very interesting.
Very powerful.
It was very powerful. And so that prompted me to do the other 29 days. So my homework was to do it for a month. And that was the first one that I did. And I thought that was amazing. So I wanted to share it with your listeners because it's a different way to learn forgiveness or to experience it.
Yeah, yeah. And why forgiveness first? What do you think that is about?
I feel for me that
Self-forgiveness, yeah.
compassion and understanding flows from forgiveness. You can't really have those without forgiveness in place, because if you understand without forgiveness, it's a cold understanding. I understand facts, right?
Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts. I understand that you are blah, blah, blah because of blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. It's very cold.
Yeah.
forgiveness with understanding. It's like, now that I understand that, I can forgive it. I can have compassion for it. And so one of the things that I am always learning is patience. And compassion and understanding help me with patience, because if I understand someone and I feel for their situation, I'm not impatient with them any longer.
Exactly. And you can release it. I think in relationships, sometimes it's hard to let go because there is that aspect of not forgiving yourself for not seeing the person the way that they truly were, for all the energy that you invested in the relationship, for all the dreams that didn't happen, you know, all that expectation and feeling like fear of moving forward because if it happened here, it might happen there, you know. Yeah, that's really beautiful because, and yes, that makes complete sense that if you forgive yourself first, and have a depth of understanding, not just like, oh, I forgive myself, but just, you know, like really connecting with those aspects. It's also identifying, you know, a lot of people talk about, well, I have blocks, I have blockages, and or I've never been able to do this or whatever. I would think that that level of self-reflection would lead to clearing those blocks so that, because if we're okay with us, like you said, everybody else just is everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Some attracted to, some not attracted to, some resonant with, some not resonant with. Yeah.
Well, and there are so many good reasons to want to do that. You know, first and foremost, the planet is evolving towards that. Or the shift that we're on the precipice of is shifting away from competition, from judgment, from fear, from anger, from poverty. And so don't you want to already be in that energy? Because again, you're going to go find your tribe. So personally, I'd rather end up in a world and on a timeline filled with love and compassion and acceptance and beauty and community than fear and isolation and all of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. You know, that brings up an idea like, you know, our political scene here in the US has become very bifurcated. Yes. And we've got like 50% over here and 50% over here. And I'm sure the other side would consider the other side the dark side, but if it's light and dark, and it's yeah, wow, that just really makes sense.
And the other thing too is you have to remember that if you don't release regret, you're going to come back with it, and you'll call things into being. So if you go through this life saying, you know, I really regret the fact that I didn't marry my first love, or I really regret the fact that I didn't complete my college degree, or, you know, I regret the fact that, you know, I did this to so-and-so. You're setting up your karma for the next life.
Yes, yes. And that perspective, you know, thinking of that dark light thing, you know, how do you see it? You know, maybe you view the other political party as dark, but they're feeling very positive about what's going on politically, you know, and they might view you as the dark, but you view yourself more positively or whatever. And it really is important, very important, to become neutral in your observation, because that does, like you said earlier in the show, create our reality. And that is extremely powerful, not just in our griping at home, but in the effect that that has on so many aspects of our life.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not a good, you know, if you despise a group, or you, you know, you have anger, you're pulling them in closer than ever.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you embrace brutality, like, you know, that's of course obviously not okay, but yeah, that level of understanding, and even if you have to step back sort of in an Abraham Hicksian view and just look at it as the contrast that's allowing the light to shine and people to determine what they want versus what they don't want.
It's very true. And, life is a great teacher. So if
Life is a great teacher. Yes, it is.
and the universe will never allow you to labor under erroneous belief for long. So,
Nope, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's listening or present that thought one thing very strongly and then had an absolutely opposite pivot on that particular point.
absolutely. And so that's also part of forgiveness, because you want to forgive yourself, and that's what allows you to make that change. If you're so locked into those beliefs and you're so holding on to them so tightly because you can't be wrong now, or because your whole structure of your world will be destroyed by it, you have to forgive yourself and say, you know what, I was completely wrong on that. I was totally off base.
Yeah. I had I'll share a short story. I went to Saudi Arabia and I was coming out of a Pentecostal church, and I hadn't realized how deeply ingrained the one-way philosophy had become, because I thought, and actually the church I was in was probably one of the more liberal ones in Texas, and I loved it there. It was so spiritual, and I did what I do now there, under tongues and interpretation and prophecy and all that stuff. And I moved to Saudi Arabia, and I remember in the grocery store having this kind of random thought, like, it is just a shame that all these Muslim people, they're so nice and they're just going to die and burn in hell, Circle that around to where I left Saudi Arabia, and because of a life after death experience that my daughter had, sought different avenues of healing and explored Islam. I became Muslim for a long time. And I can't undo Pentecost. I can't undo Islam. It was very, very important to me. And it was so interesting. I just thought how ironic that was, that, I had such a judgy attitude, and then I became one. And now I'm sort of, as everyone knows, just very broad in my spirituality, and I studied Eastern religion and clearly ended up in a metaphysical vortex here somewhere too. But it does, I think that experience of flipping your perspective is very important, and what an amazing tool to do that, to really get, people talk about integrity, and there's personal integrity, but in order to really serve other people, coming from a base of truth, especially if you're going to speak truth, is kind of important.
Live it.
How beautiful.
And good for you that you didn't have to have a whole nother lifetime to get that lesson.
Oh, I'm packing it in, babe. Packing it in. I'm not saying I wouldn't come back. There are many moments where I'm like, I love planet Earth. All the flora and fauna and the physicality of it, and all that. And there are other days where I'm like, yeah, it'll be a while. So I used to think I would never come back, and I don't know, it's always up to us anyway, so.
Well, it is.
And don't have to panic.
No, it is. It is in a
higher soul self, yes. Yeah. And that perspective gives us a different perspective too.
It sure does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does, because we still have our own curriculum of learning that we
sure,
want to
sure.
soul level, right? So we know that the soul sets a path, and I used to think that the soul set it and I had nothing to do with it, but I know better now, that it is a co-created path, and that it's not fixed. So there's no such thing as a predestined path, because we do have free will, but we also had free will to create the path. So
right.
The things that are on there, we're going to experience. I think it's beautiful that you learn that kind of compassion, because again, if we look at the upheaval that's going on simultaneously with new growth, they are not paths that necessarily intersect. They are more parallel than we think. So the question always becomes, and the choice becomes, do I want to get on this path or this path? Because truthfully, if you're on this path, there's built-in protection, because we already know that people who are negative, people who are hateful, people who are damaging, they tend to do that to each other more than others.
Oh, ultimately, yes. So it all trickles down. That's right. Yeah.
And so those paths are not even parallel so much as they're starting to diverge. And the question that we all have is, I'm saying, don't be Pollyanna, right? Yes.
No. There's some serious things going on in our world. Yes.
You know, we always say we're protected, but we don't stand on the railroad tracks and go prove it. Use your brain, use your intuition, but stay focused on the direction that you want to go.
Yeah.
And release others to the path that they want to go on. There's no more dragging someone over to your track.
Viewpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen, and it's playing out beautifully in our own country, is you can't talk someone out of their belief system.
Oh, no, because, and I think especially with religious issues, or spiritual issues, or issues that are deeper than intellectual, you can't do you can't change somebody's emotional base with an intellectual argument.
That's correct.
Not going to work. But, you know, some of that fear that people feel, I just have a trust that we're going to be in the right place at the right time. You know, Helen Keller at the end of her diary probably died, but for all we know, but not Helen Keller, Anne Frank, sorry. I have a relative, Helen Keller. Yes, she was. But anyway, Anne Frank wrote in her journal, you know, at the last, it was like, there is no place safer than any other place. The only safety is in God.
That's correct.
And, you know, I've kind of become very philosophical about what could or couldn't happen, in the sense that we are eternal beings. So if the stuff hits the fan and we die, so what? Like, we're eternal. It's not like we're dead. It's just we're not here. And if the stuff hits the fan and we suffer for a while, okay, that's not pleasant, but ultimately we do pass. And on top of that, there's suffering all over the world, you know, everywhere. So many. And so we're not special that our lives are untouched. Not saying that we're calling it in, better to reach for the joy, but and then if nothing happens, why did we spend our time worrying about it anyway? Because these things are larger than we can control.
That's right. You know? Well, and I want to go back to having it within, because
yes, please do.
That if you have love and compassion in your heart, then when you hear about people suffering in other areas of the world, you can extend your grace, your healing, your prayer, your light to those.
Just love them, not in a, oh God, they're suffering, and what about the whales and the dolphins? Love them.
Yes.
This is their moment.
That gives them healing. That creates healing for that situation. If you don't have that within yourself, your reaction is, well, I understand that that's just suffering over there, but I'm behind on my bills.
Or detachment. Yeah.
There's that lack of oneness. So building understanding and compassion in self, building love and forgiveness in self, actually makes us better world servers. It makes us better service to other people, because we have more to extend. We have more to share and give. We do live in a time of extremes, And you're absolutely correct. It's all a choice of where do I want to focus? How do I want to live? How do I want to help others? You know, what do I want to do? What do I want to involve myself in?
And if your life, if you like, let's say seriously, asteroid hit the planet in 6 months and half the world population died and you're one of them, how would you like to live until then?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you really want to be in a bunker? You know?
No, you don't. Now,
You know?
what you do want to do is you want to be connected to your intuition enough so that your intuition goes, you're going to be in the spot where the asteroid's going to hit. You might want to move.
Move or enjoy the life and create the love and connections around you that you can if you're not able to move or you're not able to, you know, take care
To go.
of these things for whatever reasons, financial or emotional or ties to other people or whatever it is.
Or you might want to get ready to help others.
Yeah.
We're going to be there. Some people stay in a
Always love, always be kind, always help. Yes.
To help others. So I see it all as being very, very connected. I see it being very positive. I don't know about the asteroid, but I do know.
Oh, I used it as a totally ridiculous example. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm not predicting that.
We don't know.
Clear that out of your minds. Cancel clear.
I think we're okay from the asteroid. But we are in a time where there's a lot of cleansing going on. We're doing cleansing to extrapolate that the earth is doing cleansing.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
balancing taking place, right?
Yes, yes.
We've got to be aware. We can't flow through life any longer going la 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 la. Life is wonderful, or oh, life is terrible. We also can't go through life going, you know, I don't have to worry about any of that because, you know, Spirit's going to just jump in and talk in my ear. We need to be aware. We need responsibility. And I think
if you get an urge, even if it's random, listen, follow it.
Follow it. I mean, the work that you do eliminating the fear of death is phenomenal because people need to remember that we have an immortal soul.
There is more. However, we are here. Yes.
That's the balancing we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Right? So that helps with other people. And again, I look at other people and I think to myself, you know what? They have an immortal soul that has a plan worked out for them. And maybe their plan is not to learn that in life 73. Maybe their plan is for that person to learn it in life 75. Who am I to say that they should learn it sooner?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, in my mind, in biblical perspective, not that I always come from that angle by any means, but, you know, God gave us a free will. And if God alone does not violate our will, who are we to think that we can control the will of another person? And I find it really on the dark side to try to manipulate the will of another person. There's just some bad karma attached to that mojo.
I agree with that. And I will say that one of the things that I know is that no being, physical or non-physical, can override the will of another.
No, we can educate, we can give our love, we can encourage. The ultimate decision is theirs, just like the ultimate decision is ours.
Absolutely true. So I don't know how much time we have. I want to make sure we get
about 3 minutes here.
So I want to hit this because it's important. When you are experiencing fear, whether it's a car cut you off or some fearful thought comes up, I want you to take a sharp, deep breath and then blow out of your mouth 4 times. So and say peace. And say peace.
Peace.
Do that 3 times and fear will be released from you instantly.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Inhale, 4 exhales, short, sharp exhales on the same breath.
And say peace.
Peace.
And just do it 3 times. It will take you, and it's happened to me, from hysterically crying to completely centered and feeling loved.
Yeah, you work in this field, you know, of intuitive awareness, consciousness, etc. It is amazing how fast we can change our consciousness and our focus of our,
Yes.
you know, our energy. And it's amazing what we can achieve, experience, and accomplish in such a short period of self-reflection.
We can do it very
15
quickly.
minutes, you could have visited universes.
Very quickly. Now, the other thing I want to give you and your listeners is when you are having deep grief.
Yes, thank you.
And so when you have deep grief, you follow the same procedure, but you do 5 breaths.
5 times, 4 cycles,
no,
or 5 exhales.
5 exhales.
Out, so in, demonstrate for us here.
So.
Peace.
So for grief, 5 times.
And how many cycles?
1, 2, 3, however many.
However it feels like, till it hits.
It'll take you out of it. But
very practical.
It's very practical because we're going to be mourning relationships. We're going to be mourning the loss of jobs. We're going to be mourning the loss of paradigms and belief systems. And of course, the loss of loved ones and friends. And so when that hits you, you're not thinking, you're not centered, you're not balanced.
Yeah, that brings your energy back to yourself and resets your vibration. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So you're not lost in it. You're not wallowing in it. So yes, we still experience it and feel it, but when you need to come out of it, right? Because you don't want to be pulled into the low end of the pool and drown in it. We don't want to.
No, and realizing even that you're able to change that you don't have to wallow in your grief or your fear. And I don't mean wallow in a callous way, but, you know, like let it consume your life and color your life and characterize everything that you do. You do have a choice about how you focus your energy. And it's interesting too, because once you decide to be happy, once you decide to connect with your, what did you call it, your tribe, you know, your people, your clan, you do find people, they come to you or you run into them, and then you can fill your life with those people.
Yes.
And how much better is that?
We never have to be alone unless we absolutely believe we're going to be alone.
Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. And being grateful for the connections that we do have definitely open the possibility of deeper connections. You know, you don't have a lover right now, then hug your dog, you know, and visit a friend and go meet somebody, do something for somebody that needs it, or, you know, go get out there and do something you enjoy anyway. Yeah.
Have gratitude. Gratitude is an amazing energy.
We forget it sometimes, and we also forget to give ourselves credit for what we have accomplished in a day. We often don't really, you know, sometimes I'll like bam, 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 bam through my day, and I'm happy through my day, etc. But I'm like, oh God, I've got this, that, and the other to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I just look at I keep notes on I'm like old school on a calendar, you know, I'll be like, oh, I got that done and that done and that done and that done. And then I'm like, well, it was kind of unrealistic to have 12 things on the list in the first place. Oh, Suzie Zummo, you just are such an amazing person. Did you have a website particularly, like if people are interested in the perceptive awareness training?
I want to give you 2 websites. One is
say it slowly and to the camera and clearly so that they can hear you. Yeah.
Perceptive Awareness Inc.com is our general site. And then if you go to my website, SuzieZummo, Zummo.com. Perceptive Awareness is up there, and so is Soma Pi. Any one of your listeners who takes class with me, I will be happy to gift them with a free reading.
Oh my goodness. And let me tell you, that is a magnificent offer for all of you that are listening. You know, pay your money first, but then after that, and I'm telling you, it will be a life-changing reading. I
would be happy to do that for them. We also do if you bring a friend to class, you'll get a $50 discount on your tuition, whether it's in person or online. But for your listeners, I also want to extend the free reading because we talked.
That is beyond amazing. Thank you, Suzie Zummo.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love talking to you. We always
well, we're not going to lose each other. We'll find each other again.
No, you're a tribe.
Thank you so much, Suzie Zummo. Yay! Thank you so much. And for the listeners, just remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing.